Okay, so I want to talk about the grand finale of the cosmic reset, the grand finale of the apocalypse, which I believe is going to happen on March 23rd, 2023. Now, on that date, there is going to be an astrological transit where Pluto is going to be in Aquarius. Now, people consider this a very significant transit because it's basically been tied to, various revolutions. Okay, it's the the world ending as we know it vibe. That is sort of the vibe of Pluto in Aquarius, and that is happening on March 23rd, 2023. Since this is such a significant date to so many people, I sort of did what I did with these other dates. For example, for 2/22/2022, I compared that to the last day of these double X eclipses, as I talked about these double X eclipses being very significant to this sort of cosmic reset that we are experiencing, right? When I did that, I found that there was 777 days and 111 weeks between them, 777 111. And using that information and various resources, I made a video saying that 2022 was going to be when doomsday started, and that is when Russia invaded Ukraine, and Biden announced it on at 2:22 p.m. Okay, so again, I did the same thing here. I compared 3/23/2023 to April 8th, 2024, the last day of that eclipse. Um, and it came out 1 year, 17 days. So I searched that to find any significance to that sort of time period. And that's when how long Noah was in his ark concerning, of sacred text, Noah in the flood, right? Noah was in the ark for 1 year and 17 days. I don't believe that's a coincidence that March 23rd, 2003, between these and this last day of these X eclipses is 1 year and 17 days. That indicates that this is when this sort of, celestial event, this world changing event, is going to occur. Okay. And then I kind of neglected this before, but because I talked about various tarot cards and how they tie to these X eclipses, and we make various predictions based on them, right? Like with the Wheel of Fortune card and the World Tarot card, both with strong X connections, helped us predict that Elizabeth Windsor would pass because of the various zodiac signs on the cards. And one is being Tauros, and Elizabeth Windsor was a Tauros, right? So we thought she might pass during this sort of period between these eclipses where all these other sort of unique events have been occurring. Okay, well, I kind of left out the Judgment Tarot card, okay, which is one, it's the XX Tarot card. So then again, we have that double X connection, okay, and it's pulling from various sacred texts, an angel blowing a horn to announce the apocalypse or judgment and that type of thing. And you can see on the trumpet there is a flag with an X on it, so another X connection, okay, but it's actually the flag, the English flag, okay. So again, that ties to England and the death of Elizabeth Windsor and that type of thing. Okay. And then we have this tarot card is, tarot cards are connected to a planet, and this tarot card is connected to Pluto. Okay. And then if you look, it seems to be as if there's a flood or in this tarot card, right? Around the coffins, people rising in resurrection, um, and a flood. Okay. So then there's that whole flood connection there as as well. Okay. And then so what I believe is going to happen on March 23rd, 2003 is what some other people have been talking about, and that is a pole flip. There's all these different occurrences and events that are happening, which I feel we believe are very connected. The rotation of the Earth is speeding up. Um, our magnetic field is weakening and has been weakening for a while, and our uh, the North Pole is shifting and the South Pole is shifting, right? The North Magnetic Pole has been really shifting. It's going towards Russia, which I don't believe is a coincidence. And I believe this is all tied to what they call a geomagnetic excursion, where pole, the poles, our magnetic field flips, at least partially, I believe, during a geomagnetic excursion. And people have tied this to these rapid climate change. One popular one is known as the Younger Dryas. And during the Younger Dryas, our climate basically rapidly shifted. We're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe 10 at the most, where the degrees of our planetary temperature just shifted, right, in a matter of years, which those degrees are critical. And we basically got knocked into an ice age, right? They say we're in an ice age now, and that we're just in these periods called interglacial and glacial periods, right? Interglacial is the sort of warmer phases of this ice age that we're in. So I believe we're going to shift into this glacial period. And I believe all of this is very natural, to be honest. Um, yes, there's they're saying the issue of like human activity causing climate change, but I feel like it's pretty much just this natural cycle that is happening, and it's almost comparable. Like if there was going to be 7-inch hail. I'm not saying that's happening, this is just a metaphorical example. Let's say there was going to be 7-inch hail. Now it's just going to be 8-inch hail because of human activity. Yeah, that makes things slightly worse, but it's not really significant in the grand scheme of things. It's still 7-inch hail. Is that type of thing, right? It just seems as we reach these when this planet reaches this certain energy level, this certain temperature, it's basically going to go into this sort of planetary estivation. Okay. Um, and that's basically like a summer hibernation, right? You know how animals can hibernate in the winter? Well, some animals, when it's like hot in the summer or very hot air conditions, they will slow down their metabolism. They will go in burrows or put themselves in some type of cocoon where to sort of retain water and survive those hot conditions. It's called estivation. And I believe we're about to experience basically a planetary estivation where we sort of shift into this another mini ice age. And it's going to be very rapid and it's going to coincide with, you know, earthquakes, volcanoes, and other extreme weather events, flooding, and that type of thing, which is just part of this sort of estivation process. And all of these sacred texts and prophecies and that type of things were just these different cultures and peoples tuning into and figuring out that there is this sort of 12,000 around basically 12,000 year cycle of this um, occurrence. Okay. And right, I don't think any of these things are coincidences. Even this solar maximum we're in our weakening magnetic field, it seems like just like with estivation, these certain conditions need to be reached, and then these hormones will, release and will trigger that estivation. I feel like something even like a solar flare is going to happen on or around March 23rd, 2023, which is going to sort of be that final surge or, level that totally triggers, that tipping point, that energetic tipping point where we, trigger this sort of planetary estivation. Okay. Basically, I do think these eclipses were significant and that there was the significance to this end of the eclipse, right, in April 8th, 2024. But it's almost comparable to this sort of black hole vibe where there's this sort of region of a black hole called the event horizon. It's kind of like once you reach that region of a black hole, there's sort of that's like the point of no return, right? That's when you can't escape the affluence of that gravity. Okay, and I feel like that's the kind of vibe we're feeling where this gravity is sort of pulling us down, this sort of influence. And, April 8th, 2024 was that sort of singularity, but the event horizon is, March 23rd, 2023. So if there may be an event on that date, I'm sensing some type of flash. Some people have been talking about a solar flash. So I don't know. I would suggest staying like indoors or something to that effect. But from that point, from that event, basically there are going to be a series of events that sort of spiral on and from that date. And just to be sort of blunt and straightforward, yes, we're talking about like mass casualty events. That's not meant to scare anyone. No, I don't believe this is the total apocalypse. Again, this was about warning us so we could prepare for these type of things. Does it seem like we're a bit off course? Yes, I would say a lot of us seem fairly prepared, not just on like personal levels, but like, societal, governmental levels. But this is totally survivable. And so there's going to be these coinciding events, a lot of extreme natural events. This is probably going to coincide with, erratic discord type of social behavior as well. At least all of this will be initially. And I do think I sort of intuitively navigated to this great flood of 1862. Okay. Um, where there was just this, huge flooding that occurred during that time period from sort of Oregon all the way down to Mexico. And they made something based off of that called the Arc Storm. Okay. And it's sort of a hypothetical scenario because they say these sort of flood events happen about every 100 to 200 years. And we're sort of within that time period, right? That's about, mm, it's been about 160 years since something like that occurred. And I know I have a sense of that happening occur. I have a sense of, I've been having this exodus since I thought it was going to be New York, but I'm just keep getting this sense of an West Coast US exodus. And then, of course, all of this is going to be um, global. Okay. Um, Again, I believe we are about to rapidly enter a glacial period starting on, um, or at least going a notch up significantly on March 23rd, 2023.